some new faces. We have an apology from Sally, and Alan will probably be with us, but not quite yet. Is that correct?
Yes, Sally has some health issues. Yes, Alan wants to be here as soon as he can. So can we, are we happy with Sally's approval?
Do we have to approve her
Yes.
apology?
Yes.
Seems unnecessary.
I'm afraid so.
It's so that if she was ill for a long time, she doesn't get automatically thrown out of the council after 6 months. And if we approve them, then she gets a buy.
Okay. Right, any declarations of interest? For once this is relevant.
Yes. Me.
No.
In item 5, planning applications.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you would like to speak to that at some point
In the public session.
in the public
Yeah,
session.
so I'll just make note of it.
Fine. And can we remind everybody that the meeting is recorded for publication, so be quite careful about what you say. Fine. We now adjourn our meeting for the public session, so could I invite Tom and Sally to speak to their planning application?
Good evening everybody, my name's Sally Clark, this is Tom Petch. We've lived at the Oase House in Buzz Lane for 7 years. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity of coming here today. So when we purchased the property, we had a surveyor's report. We also had the vendor's surveyor's report. The property had been rented out for 10 years and was really in a poor state of repair. There was lots of problems with the windows. There was some spread to the roundels, and basically we was told there was far too many windows in one of the roundels. There was 8 in total, 4 at the top, 4 at the bottom, which was causing the spread. Sorry, I'm not very good at this. There was also environment issues with the oil tank being in the garage, which was a metal oil tank. We've had that removed. We've got planning, we've got building regs for that. We've also had issues with the soakaway, which was literally just a holding tank. We've had that replaced with a Clargister, and it's now in line with the deed to go on to Mr. Parsley's land in the next bit. The conversion itself was done fairly cheaply. There was modern double glazed windows in much need of repair. The openings that converted into the barn area also probably gave way to some of the spread where it's converted. So basically we had 2 surveyors' reports, we've had 2 structural engineers' reports. We've had an architect that got our planning for the shed, who worked closely with the listed people and Kent County Council, and we used him again for the permission and things, and we was misled. We was told that we didn't need listed building consent, it would go down as necessary repairs. And basically, he said we didn't need listed building consent. As you know, we are now in a situation where we're having to go for retrospective planning. We've used a reputable window company. They are now hardwood windows, which will enhance the building, give line to the EPC and legal regulations. The Elliott Carpenter from Kent County Council Building Control signed off all the internal works and the staircase, which these were put in by the architect. He's been out since, and he's happy with the situation with the boiler and the installation of that, and he's happy with the installation of the windows. In our opinion, we've improved to enhance the building and to protect the long life of the listed building. As I say, you know, as far as we thought we were doing everything right, we're now in a situation where we're here today. The weatherboarding is more in keeping. It's in keeping with the holiday let up the lane that Charlie owns. The existing boards again were in poor disrepair. We were told that a farmer wouldn't paint boards; they would have left them natural wood. We paid out for oak for these. The kitchen was old. It was converted in 1982, and basically cupboards were falling apart. There was a Stractor fan in the middle of the room which was over the hob. You basically banged your head against it. The shower and the bathroom, you had to run around to get wet. There was a tiny bath in the family bathroom, which is now a shower. We basically spent a lot of time, effort and money to improve and enhance and restore to ensure the lifespan of the property. Again, we was misadvised, and we're now here asking for your support, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Personally, I've had a look at your application. I expect some of the other councils have.
So we have actually got another architect involved and a conservation consultant now.
Yes.
It's not the architect that we were using before.
I mean, it seemed quite clear to me that you were actually making improvements, as you suggest, where some rather inadequate work had been done previously. Ultimately, it will presumably be the view of getting a sign-off from Heritage if they choose to come and investigate what you've done.
No, we're happy for them to come.
But other councillors, any particular opinions?
What's led to you needing to make the application now? Did they come along and
But
complain?
no. So basically, we was looking to move, so we had the house on the market, and we had a sale running, and
that's when
the
they said
solicitor
you've
picked
got to have
up
it. Do you understand
things
that?
that weren't right.
Understand.
I mean, our estate agents actually phoned the existing architect at the time, and even then he was saying no, they didn't need. It was only when I phoned him and said, right, we've got a situation. He's unwell now, that's why we had to look somewhere else. And he basically said, well, it was necessary repairs. It was to enhance and improve, and basically he said at the end of the conversation, strictly speaking, I suppose we should have had planning. It was too late then.
Mm.
So sadly, did you lose a sale as a result?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not moving now.
Yeah, we're not moving now.
We're obviously
Too much happening.
pleased that you should remain.
I enjoy the walking on a Wednesday.
Anyone? Sue, Colin?
Not at this stage.
I think they'll still ask
Only to
actually.
say that there is quite a big message within this, isn't there, for, I suspect, rather a lot of householders.
Indeed, when you come to sell, you will get found out quite a lot.
But as far as we're concerned, we thought we'd done everything right.
Can I ask a question? And nobody may know the answer to this, but when you look retrospectively at something, I mean, how long ago do they look back? I mean, something might have happened 50 years ago, and
Yeah.
do they look back that far?
I don't know.
The rules weren't there then. The rules weren't there then.
No.
The work was
I
done
think
in
it's newer
lockdown.
rules that have been.
But if you were to say, well, in fact, how long have you been in the house?
We've been in there 7 years. The work was done during lockdown.
So if you'd been there 30 years and said, well, and you pleaded ignorance, what would happen then?
I don't know. I mean, I did read something about with listed planning. There was a thing about a 10-year rule, but I'm not.
It doesn't.
I don't think it
It
applies to
doesn't
listed.
apply to this.
Were the previous rather unsatisfactory alterations done with planning permission?
So it was converted in 1982, and that was basically it. There was a conservatory went on the back of our lounge, which they didn't get planning. This was not us. They had to get planning for it, which was refused. So they went to appeal, and it was refused, and it had to be taken down.
They took it down.
So our actual French doors that went out into the garden weren't even
They were
proper.
internal.
They were external. They weren't. They were just internal. They didn't even lock properly. We had to board them up when we moved in because they were just used to go out to this conservatory.
So it was listed in 81 and then converted in 82. Yeah, and the reason, I mean, Bud's house is, well, that's all listed, and we're the only other one that's listed down, I think. And
But it wasn't, you live in a house, it was never a house in the first place.
the reason they listed it was because of it's got bottle kiln posts.
Yeah.
They're quite unusual sort of thing, and that's why they put a listing on it.
Well, from our perspective, all we have to do is decide whether or not we're going to support or oppose, and I would recommend that we support.
We've got to wait until we come
Up.
down here.
Sorry.
He's on.
That's what I
So
shall.
thank you very much for your support.
I shall propose.
That's why Colin's not speaking.
He wants an early finish tonight.
We
That's the
were
way he's minded at the minute.
Fine. If you'd like to carry on here, by all means do. If you'd
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
to go,
I'll
by all
just
means
wait to
do.
the end.
Fine. Any other public?
Very quickly, just to say that we have a date for a further climate conversation meeting on the 21st of September, to which of course you would all be welcome, along with anybody else who'd like to come. And the parish has kindly funded our use of this room for climate conversation
Twice.
meetings so far, or twice.
twice out of twice.
And just to say we would welcome that if you wish to carry on.
And thank you for
We'll cover that.
funding it
Yes, absolutely.
previous year. Well, I have a separate thing, may I? Do you mind?
Sorry.
It's come up on Nextdoor, and Jeremy has seen it, that somebody who I think probably lives in Jubilee Fields feels that the provision for children's play area is poor, and why not bring it all to Coronation Field? Good idea. And then there's been a conversation, as there is always on Nextdoor, about why on earth there are adult gym equipment pieces that are hardly ever used and apparently expensive to maintain, although Jeremy has already entered the fray and said they're not expensive to maintain. And because we live right opposite, we know that they are used. They're not used a great deal. And I'd quite like to snub my nose to the person who wrote to me and said, why should we have adult play gym equipment for two adults? By ensuring that more adults knew how to use that equipment. And I know there was talk of getting a teacher or tutor, I think maybe it was something to do with Yvonne, to come and give us a sort of demonstration and say what you shouldn't use if you've got a hiatus hernia or broken knee or something. Because there's some really basically good, all the equipment is good, and some of it's of basic use to anybody taking exercise. And we certainly see people of all different ages. And also people play on it, which is okay. It's very robust.
We didn't have anyone specifically suggesting that.
Oh,
There was a personal trainer that wanted to use Coronation Field as an area to do personal training.
oh, okay.
Right.
And that didn't happen either.
No, but that's all it was. It wasn't anything to do with the equipment.
Oh, okay. Well, may it be considered, perhaps at another meeting,
Put it on the agenda.
Brilliant.
as an exercise. I'm not going to become the exercise champion. I haven't used it very much, but I do see who does use it, and they might be interested to come.
And that each piece has got instructions on it to brief you.
Yes,
Yeah,
they're
you need a little bit
brief,
more
though.
encouragement.
I mean, we do.
Yeah.
We've read them all, and it's interesting, but
It is a brief.
one to do with a bit more. And if it was a way of getting interest in the village to have an event that involved someone's instruction, it might be good. Yeah.
Exactly.
As far as the general provision of play and exercise, Jeremy, I saw his reply, which as usual is very fulsome and easy to understand. But there are issues
I'm
of
very simple-minded, you are.
No, it was
issues
as
of
ever clear.
land ownership to be considered on there. Where we are talking to Ashford about trying to get ownership of the village green for starters, which would be a very much better place to put the play equipment than in the far distance.
Well, we
Yes,
went to
fine.
have a look at the children's play equipment because as Londoners we had to do an awful lot to get any play equipment 30 years ago for our our neighbourhood, and we found that it wasn't terrifically encouraging. The stuff is all in quite good condition, but there's nowhere for an adult to sit down who might be supervising small children playing.
That was removed when they did, when they put the new surface in, because it's an Ashford Borough Council play area, as you know, it's not
Yes.
parish. It's, they renewed the surface,
Okay, so
they
they
did
did
some
it
work,
on their
and
rules.
they removed the seat that was there.
Was
And there's no shade.
I don't know, they didn't even come to us to say they were doing it. We didn't have any interactions. All of a sudden, there it is done. Same with the equipment. We complained about it. We were told that there was no money to do anything with, and then a few months later, all of a sudden it's been improved. But some of that equipment came from the original play equipment.
Because that horse is like
Yes.
from the 1950s.
Well, 19...
In fact, some of us in this room may have used it.
Our children used it when it was on Coronation Field.
Right.
And yes, all of that.
I think it's a very worthy cause to reopen. I'm not sure whether Ashford Borough Council is going to
Why don't
obviously
you
produce any money, but we did meet the cabinet member for recreation and open spaces. She was the Green Party candidate, and she came third. Wheels of Kent. And she's the kind of person who might help us put together a better plan. But I mean, the simplest plan would just be to put some trees there, because there's no shade, so you can't sit there on a hot day, should there ever be one. Sorry.
It's all tied up. It's no easy fix, because I'm sure Jeremy will tell us more. But we've had to put suggestions forward for the Section 106 money, should that development at Stocks Road. And we met with the person that was wanting to know what we wanted. And she actually suggested play equipment, natural play equipment, which is the new in thing that the children like, on the village green. So if there's more reason to want this development, so that we get a way of getting money towards this. But once again, this is, until that's decided, we won't know until we get the land transferred.
So step one, can we just get the naysayers about the adult gym equipment to stop saying nay and say yay, it's a great idea, and we do see people using it.
Might be interested to know that when we first put forward 2013, I think it was, the play equipment, the pieces that we got up there were all chosen by the Wednesday walkers.
Okay.
We put it to them, what do you like? And in fact, a couple of them used it regularly. But that was 2013, we're now 2024, people have
got a bit more rickety.
Yes, so those people aren't actually using it anymore, but it was used.
I used to use it regularly before COVID for about a year, but I stopped obviously doing COVID, and then I got rickety, so I haven't gone back to it.
All the more reason
So
to
we
use
need
it.
the new generation of less rickety people.
You'll be there next week.
Okay.
Alan.
And of course, Coronation Field does have a very long history of mayors and soothsayers and so on, as you probably know already.
Indeed.
And historically, the characters heavily involved in neighing and soothsaying are still in the village. So I've got a funny feeling that any change to Coronation Field would
Bring on some neighing.
Quite likely, hopefully, be successful, but would attract quite a lot of neighing.
That had occurred to us.
And neighing was the big word 20 years ago with Village Hall, proposed Village Hall.
Well, step one is playing.
No reason
We'll
for
go
not
for
trying,
trying.
I have to say.
Exactly. Well, it's interesting to know one of the main newspapers today had quite an extensive article on Alzheimer's and dementia. They list the 12 different steps, points, or what have you to avoid it, and number one is exercise, regular exercise. So although no joking intended, there's a very good reason to have it there, and of course there's no charge to people. If you compare that to the gym memberships that are in Rye or Tenterden, nothing wrong with them, but they are relatively expensive. And that equipment was all put in, well, when we first joined the council, I think, it was in consultation and with a lot of support.
Well, it's excellent.
And some of the pieces are very good. I mean, they're all for different things, but some of them are actually quite a workout.
But as you were saying, achieving motivation is the key, really. And if, in the same way as there's a walking group, an exercise group could be led by somebody who is prepared to do so, and always met and exercised 3 times a week, followed by coffee or something somewhere. You never know.
No, I think
But
3
it's
times
very-
a year will be enough.
Once a week. Anyway, very good
We
suggestion.
have no dementia in the village at all.
You did used to have a cafe in your
Well, the other
location.
criteria.
Yeah.
It has been put to us that we should reopen it.
Okay.
And you only have to look around other villages with play equipment, and I mean, it can convert quite a lot of envy, because some of them have got some magnificent
Yeah.
play equipment.
Yeah.
Stennonden's got
Swindon is the classic.
wonderful children's play areas.
Church.
Admittedly, they've got the Harmsworth Trust, which we don't have,
Yeah.
and they've got the
You're right,
Freaky
they
Shop,
have.
which makes a lot of money.
They've
And
also
they both
got
put a
it.
lot of money into that sort of, into that kit, and of course it cost well over £100,000.
Yeah. They've also got it in a sensible position.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's very well located. Well, the corner shop is for sale, and that would make an excellent tea shop.
Okay.
And it's not a suitable
Which
house
corner?
for a house.
Which corner?
Antique
Where
shop.
Gillian had her antique
Oh,
shop
right, okay.
Antique shop.
with its shop alongside.
Yeah.
That's enough for me.
Thank you very much. Anything else from the floor? No?
No, thank you.
Okay, well, we
I
now
thought you
move in.
wanted to.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, fine.
the second planning application, actually, given what we've discussed so far, this is probably the most uninspiring, boring one, but it's worth looking at. We recently had, in the corner of our garden, or what we call the paddock, there was a huge mound left over from the previous people with rubble and bits and pieces, and it was very untidy. And we got in a couple of chaps to clear it. They did a really good job, and they said, you know, what do you want doing with all the stuff that was clearing, including some small bits of rubble and what have you. As it happened, we all know the weather was being pretty grim. We're on a slight slope there. I mean, you don't really realise it until the rain comes down and it gathers under the field gate. Plus the fact that our neighbour didn't realise that she had a pipe leak, major one. We just thought it was all part of the weather and it was all underwater. And so one of the lads suggested, well, why don't you put the rubble down by the gate, because normally if you go in and out occasionally your wheels spin because it's clay. And I thought, what a jolly good idea. And so he did that, and it's an area about as wide as from John through to the table and to the wall there, so it's not massive. And they said, we've got some road planings, which I've never heard of before, but they were like bits of chipping from the road. Can we put that on the top? I said, fine. They did a great job. Finished on a Thursday. I came back from being in London on the Friday to find a note through the door from Ashford Borough Council saying there was a suspected submission breach of planning, which took me completely by surprise, because certainly as a parish councillor it's not the sort of thing I would intentionally have gone and done, nor would anyone. So I phoned up the number on there, and actually I got a very helpful lady, senior planning officer, Joe at Ashford Borough Council. We had a good conversation. I apologised, said I'm really sorry, didn't realise I had to do it. And she said, well, you know, someone had obviously complained, and it transpired that they won't tell you who the complainant is, but it transpired that and we've got a pretty good idea who it is, right? But it transpired this complainant said we were putting in hard standing, and then we were going to open up a caravan park, and for the bank holiday they were all going to come in on the bank holiday. I was completely dumbfounded. And I explained to Jo, no, there's a tiny bit that we put in there, and she said, well, I'm completely satisfied with your explanation. We'll have to still have planning permission, so I didn't argue with the toss on that. I got a letter about 2 weeks later from Ashford Borough Council Planning Department saying, we think you should get planning permission. So I thought, I'll do that. So I applied for that. It ended up costing me considerably more than the chaps who moved the rubble to the entrance. And that's where we are. I actually drew up the plan, and I paid for to download the plans as a lesson in that, which I'm happy to share with anyone. And it got sent back because I hadn't put the name of the road on it. I put the number of the road, the B, whatever it is, and I downloaded it, and I found actually the software not particularly friendly. And that's where we are. So we're applying, you know, as good citizens for retrospective planning permission. It's cost us £300 and something, and it's a patch of driveway which is, I don't know, you know.
I mean, farmers do that in their fields
Well,
All
yes,
the time.
all
yes,
the time.
Yes, yes. And we got this card through, pre-printed and filled in.
But I mean, if they insisted on that across the county, they'd be overwhelmed with hardcore planning applications.
The upside, Paul, is that you can now have a caravan site.
Well, yes, I have no
Maybe round
intention
about
of doing it. Yeah. But I just thought, you know, but that's the story behind it, you know, and there's no point in falling out with anyone, and they won't tell you who applied, and I just think it was one of those things that what was really interesting is that the lads only finished on the Thursday, and Ashford Borough Council plans were out inspecting and put the notes through the door the following day. My suspicion is that whoever did the complaining is ex-Ashford Borough Council employee and knows people there to make the phone call and raise this panic that...
Could be a very useful person in other circumstances.
Not if you spoke to Yvonne off the record. I think he probably knows what I'm talking about. But anyhow, that's the story behind it. I'm happy to answer any questions. The only thing I would say is that the people that did the work for us, I would heartily recommend. And they did a great job.
It probably means you have to leave the room while we're discussing.
No, I can't comment. When we go back out to the public session, you can say all sorts of things. But seriously, has anyone got any questions at all? It's probably the least exciting retrospective planning permission application ever.
It's all rather sad, really.
That's another aspect.
It was frustrating. I have to say though that my advice is on this. What I've learned is talk to the planners in Ashford. They've got the rules. They're pretty much overwhelmed, etc., etc. And they were helpful. And I genuinely thought after the informal conversation when Joe said, "I'm very satisfied that you're not starting a caravan park and you're not supporting the Romany nation." To set up over, and it was this panic because it was a bank holiday, and that's when apparently they all come in with their caravans and take over on bank holidays, and this was all new to me. One of those things.
There are, of course, farming fees. Ashford farming fees.
Oh gosh, yes. I feel that. Well, I'll be asking them to repair the pothole outside our driveway because when the lorries go, it's going down and down and down. It makes a huge thumping noise. And
Different authority.
Oh, well, it is, but that's where I hope I get my money back.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, thanks
Fine.
very much.
Anything else from the floor? We will be now going into our own session, so should we leave?
Thank you.
Good night. Have a good night.
Okay. First item, confirming the minutes that have been circulated for our last meeting.
Yes.
Everyone happy with the content?
Yes.
Just initials.
Yes or no? None.
Nine. Thank you very much. Matters arising, the permanent items. The first one, Swan Pub. As you will have noticed, I think it closed about 10 days ago, sadly. Kevin and Georgia are now in occupation at the Cricketers in Rye, which they have converted, and I think their attention and interest has now moved in that direction. I have emailed Kevin to see if I can find out about at the last meeting we heard about the possible purchaser, the Chinese Elvis impersonator, aged 75. The word is that he's no longer interested, but I'm trying to get that confirmed. I haven't had a response to my email yet, and I'll be dropping in to the Cricketers to talk to them and see. It's my hope that in due course we can find someone who is prepared to purchase and operate the Swan as a pub. it's unlikely that they will agree to do so with the price as high as it currently is, and that's really the issue. Kevin would appear to have a reasonable amount of money, and it would be nice to think he could be persuaded to reduce his price. His price reflects the money he spent on it, and that's understandable, but it's unlikely a buyer will pay that price when operating a pub is so difficult in the current circumstances.
It's only worth what it's worth.
Yeah.
It's only worth what it's worth, whatever he
Well,
spent on it.
Quite.
Yeah.
So that's where that is.
John, may I make a
Yes.
point? I'm just passing on comments that people have suggested be made. One, is it true that it's now a second-hand car parking lot?
There are some
That was
Yeah.
all Kevin's main business is car sales. And that was just someone expressed we don't want to see that turned into a car lot. But that was just their opinion. Two surveyors with theodolites were in the car park taking readings a few days ago, quite extensive ones, and typically that's only done if someone's looking to potentially develop a site. So several people mentioned our house is going to be built there, so to pass that on. And the other thing that was more positive, I thought, was given the success of Bethersden Community Pub and the initiative in Iden, and this comes under the classic. So what are the parish council going to do?
Better than community shop
No.
or pub.
Pardon?
Better than community shop or pub.
Bethersden.
Bethersden.
Bethersden has
Sorry,
launched
Yeah,
John probably knows
George.
and apparently it's going very well.
Yeah,
And Iden have set up, they've raised their first amount of community funding
Yeah.
to match for the purpose of the what's it called? I've got my mind's gone.
The bell.
The bell.
I better get out and do the exercise.
I was going to mention the same thing
Yeah.
tonight.
The bell. So it was basically people saying what could be done is an initiative. I just
Yeah.
report back without
Well,
any
there,
further comment.
there were various aspects to it, and I was thinking that we don't have an issue of Outlook in August, similarly as we don't have a meeting here. But I thought of putting together an appeal, if you like, for Outlook in September, setting out the situation and possible solutions. I'm sceptical about the community purchase, having chaired the Save the Swan pub, and although we were frustrated by COVID, I was not confident, having spoken to a number of people who might have put money in, that the village would have been able to raise the money. In Iden, I've spoken to the people running that appeal. They currently raise money only for initial surveys and the sort of stuff that we did exactly the same with our pubs. And that's only the beginning of a very long journey. And I have my doubts, possibly unfairly, unless there's a sugar daddy around who's going to put a lot of money in for which he expects not a lot of return. That's a listed building. It makes it a lot more complicated to convert to modernise. And as for the George in Bethersden, which I've visited, and by pure coincidence, I know somebody who is working about 40 hours a week of voluntary time, very wealthy. He's got the time and interested, but that pub is supported on the back of a huge amount of voluntary effort. And it received a substantial grant from a village trust towards the capital purchase. So they had quite a lot going for them, and fine, they're doing good things, and the village is supporting them. They've got a chef who likes living there. But as I say, there's a lot more to buying and running a pub than a lot of people might think. So, as I said, I thought that something in Outlook effectively asking anybody who thinks they do have a bit of a solution of some kind or another, wealthy donor, lots of volunteers. We know there are lots of potential volunteers to help because we secularised the village when we were looking at the Swan. And then of course there's Kevin, and is he intending to develop the site in reality, and therefore he will refuse any offers of purchase or lease. So these matters all need to go into the pot. And a little bit of encouragement and maybe a precedent is the fact that the Crown in Stone has had its change of use after many years of trying. It's been turned down. Clearly, one of the paragraphs is that it's a community benefit to the community, and Ashford Borough Council don't wish it to change. So they're very frustrated, obviously, and that cost them a fortune, I'm sure. And but one may be able to point to that as to somebody like Kevin, that look, is it really worthwhile waiting for 10 years or for however long it might be to get to development consent?
Did you see the guys with the theodolites yourself, or was that just a report?
No, I saw them as I drove past.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because they were on those yellow sticks.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
They were doing surveying a couple of days ago for the drive up past Poppy Farm. And I just wondered if someone had seen them. That's why I asked you if it was
No, they were in the car park. Yeah.
So someone was probably doing them both together.
Mm.
It's interesting that when the say the Swan when we started out, one of the things that was going on was that the then landlord, let's say, approached the Ashford Borough Council for pre-planning advice, and there was quite an extensive document produced. It was about 6-7 pages, and I don't think he ever read beyond the first page, which was quite encouraging. Because the rest of the pages were talked about the maximum number of houses would not be 3, it would be 2. And also the requirements for electric vehicle charging, etc., etc., etc. And also they said that the highways would have a major say if you develop that because it's at a junction, and etc., etc. So that was not very encouraging. So I would say that going back to Alan's point about him having to wait many years potentially. The fact also is that what a developer would pay in terms of the return they would get, that's not a very big margin. So I don't think it's particularly attractive unless Ashford change their stance on that. You're not going to get high density, you're not going to get a block of flats in there for all sorts of reasons. So it's a good point that you make, and the Crown example bears it out, I think.
Yeah. So we'll continue with it on our agenda and update in due course. Next item, Sports Club lease update. As far as I'm concerned, there's good news there that they intend to apply to become CIO. And they have got themselves together to a certain extent. What's missing is a chairman, apparently.
Yeah.
They go
We had an acting
meeting by meeting. And they're showing all the signs of wanting to do what Jeremy suggested to them long ago, and what would make a lot of sense. And I think this encouraging news.
Well, I thought the response was positive in the sense that in practice you got a response.
Yes, yeah. Well, and Willie Everett knows what's going on, and I think is very happy. They're proceeding in a sensible direction. So hopefully, in due course, we can sign that one off.
Yeah.
The S106, as has been mentioned already, discussions with Yvonne and Jeremy and the lady from Ashford. We've been given an indication of the sort of items that they might approve. The quantum is the item that they're not prepared to state. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. Of course, they don't know at the moment the size of the development that might be approved, and therefore the money that might be
Well, the
available.
size of the development is in as 20 houses, of which 18 count, because 2 are self-build, which I don't think count. So that pairs it back to 6/10 of what it was before. But
Yes,
the other thing is that it's not coming forward to a planning committee at the minute.
no, this is most
Drags on.
interesting that it hasn't been immediately.
But then
brought
again,
up.
it does occur to me that the developer may not be in a rush at the minute.
Exactly.
Because if I was the developer, I would think, is there a chance of pushing it back up to the 30?
Under the new government.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can I just say the things that we had confirmed that we
Yes, sure.
would like? Obviously, I mentioned before the natural play area on the village green, and setting out ground preparation for new informal football pitch on the village. Once again, this is all on the village green. Those items, and then towards burial ground extension project. Nothing specific, but that's something that they would give money to.
Okay.
So that, once again, the informal, the football pitch is what's been mentioned recently on next door as well, better equipment, and that is on. It's more of an obvious place to have it because you've got all the children down there and parents being able to see the children. But the ground would have to, it's not really even up there, it's very wet, so a lot of work would need to be done on it. But those are the things that we have agreed would go forward.
Sure. Possible transfer of land belonging to Ashbourne Council Popular Farm Field, that's wrapped up in what we are discussing tactically. I think we have felt that rather than try to obtain ownership of the entire Ashford Borough Council owned area up there, to start with the village green, which can never be scheduled for building and therefore is of no value to them,
Sure.
would be the sensible thing to do, and we are still looking into the appropriate person to approach.
Well, I mean, they've been approached, and
Yeah.
you know, we talked to them and they never talked to us. The lady who came to talk to us about the 106 did actually talk to us about it, and you know, she was given a clear understanding of the situation, and she's not very senior, she won't carry weight. She did explain how they may have a worry about it for various internal bureaucratic reasons, but again, as I said to her, that cannot legitimately apply to the village green because the village green is now sanitised. The other thing is that our ward councillor, Johnny Shilton, was going to try and push that along before the election got called. The election took him completely off of anything else because he was the successful candidate's agent for the election, so that gave him an extra full-time job. But he is now potentially freed up a bit again. And also, as you heard from Greg in the public session, the Green councillor for Wolvenden, Kate something, forgotten, who's a farmer, is the portfolio holder for outdoor space and all that sort of stuff. And I went to that climate conversation, had a talk with her. Not about this particularly, but had a talk with her, and she did, interestingly, as soon as she came in, she knew exactly who I was, which surprised me because I've not met her before. So the pieces are perhaps slightly lining up. And because she is the portfolio holder, Johnny, of course, is in the opposition, being Conservatives in Ashford now, but the Green is in the government, the Ashford Council, the cabinet, and covers the right area. So we might be able to start making moves now.
Good.
But that's not the same as making them.
No. Incidentally, Johnny seasons here. I don't think we need to follow that up though. He would still be very busy. Thank you. The next item, this perennial cemetery planning application and biodiversity gain. At what stage are we on this?
Well, once again, talking to Annie Brown about it, and she did say that she would take that forward, see whether she could find out any more information. I chased her. She said she's asked the questions and will let me know when she has any information. But it's getting the information out of Ashford. All these questions go in.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
getting something out. It's really to be the problem.
She did suggest to us, we don't know what the rules are, and I don't think she really knows what the rules are, but I don't know what her background is quite, but she did suggest that if we had to have some kind of a biodiversity statement, she may in fact be able to provide it, or have the information needed. She thought that it was a sort of, I think it's fair to say, she thought that it was a silly question. If we're taking it from a commercial orchard to a burial ground, then, you know, the point is straight away made, but the trouble is that it's, you know, it's got to fit the bureaucratic tick boxes.
And then just reminding ourselves that there, of course, there's farming in a protected landscape application.
Indeed.
I mean, I imagine that's sort of, relatively speaking, a closed-ended, time-wise agenda, and if this goes on forever, then we'll miss that opportunity.
Sure.
Whether there's any merit in trying to acquaint them with that, when we have a grant on offer, but we'll lose it unless they pull their finger out.
Well, I think that's a point that we made in that questionnaire.
That's right.
When they asked us for what we wanted to know about. I think, am I mixing two things up, or did we do that?
Well, obviously in the planning application it was all there that we consulted with all these people. And what we would get.
I mean, they will give us a grant, but they will eventually lose patience and say, well, we're going to reallocate it because you haven't fulfilled your side of the bargain.
Yes.
So are we at the stage at the moment of actually being at a decision-making stage?
No, we haven't provided the information they've asked for.
Right.
Because we don't know.
So basically their view, the planning authority's view, is that the ball's in our court.
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to fully understand what the roadblock is.
They have said to us we've got to provide this biodiversity statement, or bio something like that.
Yeah.
We've got to show that the biodiversity is going to be 20% or something bigger after we've done it than before.
Okay.
And before is not when it had the trees, before is when the regulation came in, when it was open grassland. So that takes a bit of our benefit away.
So why don't we provide them with what
we've gone back and said, Yvonne did, and said, this was only an administrator. Are you actually sure that there is not an exemption for what we're doing? It's a general regulation that came in. There's an exemption for you. You saw that. You didn't have to put in this for your tarmac, as it were, sort of cheapo tarmac, because you have an exemption. And we said, are we sure that, you know, burial ground doesn't have an exemption? And they were going to go and ask the planner to make sure that that was right, but they've never come back.
No.
Meanwhile, the alternative is to say, well, to hell with it, we'll just do we'll stitch together some sort of biodiversity plus 20%, blah, blah, blah. And Greg, I haven't asked him this since, but he was going to ask the consultants that he knows well how much it would cost if we did that, but I haven't had an answer.
But I'm just thinking, just on the cost thing, I mean, if there's a cost-benefit piece here, because if we delay and then lose the grant, you know, it might be that we need to invest a relatively small amount to get someone to look. That we take the initiative, that we spend a small amount to get a biodiversity statement. Ashford doesn't seem to know what's it from its elbow in that. So if we present the biodiversity statement, then is that a tick box for the planning officer to make a decision? Because that to me seems where the roadblock is.
And couldn't the biodiversity statement come from Tobias Jackson, the FIPL?
Potentially. He would certainly know someone.
That's a maybe.
Is it something he does? I don't know.
Well, I don't
He'll certainly know
I don't know
somebody.
how detailed they wanted it. It might just be a few lines, but if it's going to be 60 pages of...
Well, I've got, with the planning application, it states all that we've got to produce.
Well, if you look at, I know this might sound a bit like a red herring, but if you look at the Stocks Road planning submission, that's not a bad template for a biodiversity report. It's quite an extensive one. We might not need as much, but it seems to me that the thing that's in the way at the moment is that they want the biodiversity report. We should give it to them.
Well, I think asking Tobias Jackson is...
No, I mean, I'm just thinking there's an example, and we do see examples.
We had a planning application last month, I think, that had one, and it wasn't just sort of script that you could make up. It had a whole load of boxes.
Then I think Tobias Jackson at FIPL might be the man who would have the
It might.
the necessary vocabulary to be able to develop that for us. That's
So is he your
worth
contact?
asking him.
Yeah.
That's what I think we should do.
Yeah, I agree.
And
So,
if he can't do it, he'll tell us how to do it.
so is he your contact? Can you ask?
He is.
Or can you
Well, I
ask?
think it's best if it comes from Yvonne, really, I think, if he didn't mind. Although I do have a way in.
Well, if it's just a phone call.
My contact is Charlie Reeves. He's a local farmer and he knows Tobias Jackson, so it would be. I mean, I could do it, but I mean, Yvonne met with Tobias Jackson.
No, I was there.
Well, maybe you
I
could.
was there.
Jeremy did.
Tobias Jackson works for what used to be called the AONB unit at Flimwell, but is
Mm.
now the National Landscapes, whatever they call it, on the end of that. And he may or he may not be willing, able, and not conflicted or whatever. But it's a question.
But I
that
think
we
we need
ask.
to ask him the
Yes.
question.
Sure.
Mm.
Then he would either do it or tell us.
No reason not to.
Well, maybe you could give him an informal call and
Okay.
say our parish clerk will be contacting you
Yeah.
to see if you could help this. It's the last obstacle in the way,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
I need to know from Yvonne the exact wording
It's a
of what
question if actually would plan to do with it.
said. Would you mind?
Okay.
Yes, I can let you have that.
They always can say no.
And
It's great.
Okay.
Good
Good
at that. Or
can
not
I
say
can I
no
have a
at all.
copy of it all?
I'll send you a copy.
Would you mind? Then I can tell Tobias what they've said in the meeting. I'll ask him. Well, you can ask him, and I can ask him whether he can do it.
Right.
Okay.
I think that's the appropriate way to move forward.
Yes.
Try to
We
unblock
would
the
still
block.
like to get some sort of response from you, official note to this lady. Anyway, you pressed her, so. Okay. Cemetery direction sign. We now know that
I've got it ready to then.
it is two-sided,
It's
which was agreed.
two because it's got for each side of the post, but yes,
True.
it's two separate ones.
Overgrown hedges. There was a complaint, various complaints. I've seen a lot of hedges cut myself down the street. Do you feel that this item has been satisfactorily
Well, as you probably saw, I put a piece in Outlook, which I do
Yes.
every year,
reminding?
people. I also emailed Darren Anderson, who's our highway steward, to ask him how we went about it when places were on the market, so we couldn't actually, no one was going to read the out there. He went out the next day and came back to say he's put an order in to have the hedges there cut back. So whether
Is
it's
that
waiting
the Mallet House?
and the antique shop, they were the two that were up for sale that obviously we couldn't contact them or they wouldn't read anything. So it did take it on themselves to actually do something.
Yes.
But we're still waiting for it to be done, I believe. I haven't noticed that it's been done. But
Could I add, a couple of people mentioned to me this week, could that also apply to the driveway down here? Because the brambles
that's
are
village
coming down.
hall, yeah, I mean, as you drive down.
Yeah.
Could would that be an Alf
No.
unit? Okay. Could you ask the village hall committee to get their shears out, please, or clippers or whatever they use?
So it'd be Paul that would do that.
Okay. The land fronting the church. This was Mike Hill we were badgering, wasn't it?
Yes, I wrote to his PA and so that she could pass on. She asked Mike and he said he would chase highways. He hasn't come back, so again this week I went back to Joe and said, could you find out what's going on? But he's still waiting to hear from highways, so once again asking the questions, not getting the answers
Yeah.
back from the authorities.
Isn't there something in the way of revealing their poor performance?
Don't know, you see Mike, when I chased her again, she came back and said, Mike can't get to your meeting on Tuesday, perhaps another one later. I said, well, it's not a meeting necessarily we want him to come to. We want him to find out and then just let us know. We don't need him to come and say, I haven't found anything yet.
Yeah.
A waste of his time.
The path is actually getting worse and worse,
It is.
isn't it? The state of it,
It is.
the path bit.
It's
Yeah.
a terrible mess now.
Yes, it is.
It is.
I had thought of doing something practical about it, like, bit of weed killer and then
Yeah.
so on. But
But then you think,
but I decided to leave it just to make it look really bad, so that
Yeah.
they feel that something's got to be done.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yes.
You don't think roping it off and putting a decision notice saying awaiting KCC's ability to make a decision in front of it?
Yes.
I mean, you wanted something else to be done, Alan.
Well, I think so, but I've got a funny feeling the senior clergy wouldn't like it.
No,
They get easily upset.
Mm.
Well, they don't come and see us, do they? The senior
They
clergy?
go there. Well, all right, the middle-ranking clergy then.
Well,
The local
you've got
clergy.
a reserved parking spot.
Well, it's quite remarkable how many of our items run into a dead end with Ashford Borough Council.
It-
This is
it-
KCC.
No.
The sad thing
The
is,
authorities.
I mean, that's a good point, but it's a little bit sad that that is becoming increasingly, noticeably increasingly common.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 years ago it wasn't nearly as bad,
Mm.
but then we perhaps it's just worth,
Maybe this is something our new MP would like to get her teeth into
yeah.
and make a valuable contribution.
It's anything that needs a decision that
It's the wrong
isn't
colour.
simply within one
Borough
person's
Council.
role, I think.
No, not for KCC.
Fine. I mean, we are
Yeah.
pursuing these. That's the major thing, that we are pursuing,
Yes.
doing everything we can. Parking problem on Poplar Road. We know that
I wrote to the football club that was told quite rightly that it wasn't a football match that was causing the problem, not a football club match. So I wrote to Stuart Hibbard, who was chairman at the last meeting, and it's a problem they are aware of and they're doing all they can to alleviate it. And they are hoping to put in off-road parking in the future at some stage if they can. So I did say that yes, that was important if they can do all they can. I mean, it's then allowed to use Village Hall car park
Yeah.
Mm.
occasions like this.
okay, well now the matter that we've already had a brief discussion on, Sally and Tom's application. I don't think any of us feel there's any reason for failing to support this. We all happy with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you have our support.
Yes. I think you've got everybody's attention.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you. Means I can sleep tonight now.
yeah.
Oh, that's even better.
Paul's application, he cannot contribute to this discussion. We've heard his explanation. It all seems very straightforward, really, and again, I would suggest that we support this application.
You need to ask about the reason.
Yes, I'm asking you all. So he seems to be nodding.
Let's support. On this occasion, I would.
Okay, but a warning in future, we prefer the application in advance.
Yes.
Jeremy,
Sure, yeah, I'm supporting
yeah, just plain support.
And if the football people need some hardcore, they know where to go.
Good.
Are you
If you'd
okay
like
with
to-
that?
Yeah, fine.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
See you next Wednesday.
Wish
I'm
you
not
well.
here tomorrow.
No,
Thanks.
Item 6. Paul has very kindly prepared and secularised a draft, and comments have been made. Thank you all for your comments. And we now have effectively a final draft. If I can find it.
It just needs a slight change now, I think, to the sentence that was being put in the original, the front policy, communications and media policy. It had a line put in to say, and there's now a separate social media policy, it'll now need you to change it slightly, Yvonne, in some way, so that it refers to what is now the best practice guide. Just so that they don't conflict.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yes.
I thought it was much improved what
Yes.
Paul has done to.
Well, thank
To
you all
take
for
the
your,
edge off
your
it.
input and including Yvonne. It was all very helpful and made a lot of sense. And I will look back at where the various sources I got, and I thought, you know what, I won't be going back to them because it's just, life's not long enough. But I thought this is a much better approach, because what it does do is it gives intent without exposing us to sort of invidious liability and what have you.
So be able to let me have one without the drop.
Yeah, I'll send them to you tomorrow, and I will get rid of the TBC.
Yes.
Do we need a proposer and seconder for this, or can we just agree that we're all happy with what's been produced? Yeah. Okay, that now enters the library.
And you used to ask for proposers and seconders for anything that was really very formal,
Okay,
you know, like budgets and things like that.
okay. Burial fees and charges. It was interesting. Yvonne secularised the various different, some of the various different cemetery fees from the not too distant area. And what seems fairly clear is there isn't much commonality, is there really?
Best to die in Headcorn.
Yes, not in Galtex, that's for sure.
Get your hearse washed at the same time.
So how do we feel in absolute terms? We dig a grave and it costs £430. I mean,
We don't dig it.
No,
No, we don't.
We just charge.
this is for the exclusive right of burial.
So-
So you can purchase a plot.
So
That's
the digging
plot
comes with
Yeah.
the funeral.
Yes.
Yes, we don't dig.
Okay.
That's why I didn't put Tenterden in, because
Because
they
they do.
their charges include digging.
Okay. So that seems not unreasonable.
This is what we have. So it was 2 years ago is what we've got.
Yes.
I mean,
If you're happy to keep it as it is.
I mean, I tend to like to see small increases generally every year, just to get people in.
I've come up with a 2% if that was
Yeah,
any.
well,
2%, yeah.
you see that kind of. I think it does no harm to have a history of.
Yeah.
So before we rounded it up, so
My only question was, have we ever had anyone to bury who's over 6'6"? Because we've got a limit on the size.
Yes.
The put down.
I was going to say, yes. They have to kind
well,
of
they have
scrunch up a bit.
That's right.
yeah, that's a 9x4 the plot.
That's
we
9x4.
actually allowed.
Yes.
So
Yes, because you can have coffins, but then you can have caskets, and if you're of a travelling family, you have an enormous casket, gold, things like that.
Yeah, that seems to
we
be the
haven't got one of
horse.
those.
But I would suggest that we do uprate by 2%,
I would support that.
just as a sort of general rule.
So can we have a proposal and second for that one then?
Proposer, Colin?
Bob?
Will you propose that?
Yes.
Thanks.
I'm quite off for my end of the block.
Yes, can I second? Am I allowed to second?
Thank you.
Very good. Agreed to put in a planning application. Oh dear, my heart sinks.
I'm just trying to cover all bases on this one.
Because
We're
once again, we
still
can't get an
waiting
answer.
to hear.
We can't get an answer. I just want about the burial.
No, this is about whether we need planning permission to redo the slabs
Yeah.
around the war memorial.
I went round it again on Sunday night and said they're in horrendous condition.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's a case of
Yes, I
we're
know,
still
but-
waiting for the planning
You know, it,
department to say yes or no.
I
That's
think
why I said I wanted this put now, because if I keep chasing them, which is what I'm doing, and they came back and said yes, then we need to agree now to say yes to putting in a planning application, as we're not having a meeting in August. Otherwise we've got to wait till September
Yeah,
before
yeah.
we say, oh yes, right, we'll do that. So if I know that you're all happy that
Yes.
should we need it,
Yes.
we can go ahead
I
and do
do wonder about, with November approaching, whether Ashford should be, this is just me being a bit silly, but insensible at the
Well,
same
not
time.
at all, because he
We
almost
should be
slipped.
writing to Ashford, I was the one who nearly killed himself,
Yeah.
we should be writing to Ashford to say we have been waiting to know whether we have got to do this for 4 months or whatever it is, and if you do not tell us shortly, we will have to take the war memorial out of use on November the 11th and make it clear it's because of the Borough Council, and the Borough Council is very concerned about their,
Yeah.
you know, their commemorations. They're full of it.
Well, I did say that we needed to do something before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well and truly,
Remembrance,
yes.
but
I
it
would
still doesn't
support
make
that,
any
what
difference.
Jeremy's saying.
I think Jeremy's made a really good point there. And also, can I suggest that you get in contact with the Royal British Legion and explain the situation to them and ask them, you might have to draft a letter
To get worked up.
to get worked up
Yes.
and write to the same, and then attach the letter and advance on all fronts.
Sure.
Used to
And
be
in
a
fact,
military
you-
Because we
expression.
are running out of time.
Do absolutely nothing to stop the British Legion getting very worked up.
Well, you would know immediately. I mean, my attitude would be this is a health and safety issue.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that's what
Do
I
it.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. I know that. Yeah.
Incidentally, it is
Get a
our,
quote.
it is
Get a
our
quote
choice.
from Jim Knight,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
he'll give you a quote.
Mm.
I must be careful what I say because he is
Mm.
my builder on my house.
Mm.
But they are reactive and they do a good job, and he'll be quick with a quote if you want it.
What I was going to say was, it is our choice because we are tacitly the owner of it,
And
therefore
responsible.
and therefore we can take it out of use. It's no good for them saying, well, we're going to do it anyway. They will be on parish council land.
But I really resent the idea that we should then have to pay £200 or £300, submit a planning application. It won't be decided within
Yeah,
No,
indeed,
a couple
absolutely.
of months.
Can I just ask, planning commission, now I'm not an expert on this clearly, but planning commission surely is if you're going to build something or materially alter it. But repair and maintenance on your house,
Yes.
you don't need planning
This
permission.
is listed
Listed,
as
yeah.
Art, so it's a different
Back to
department.
potentially.
Is it, well, no, but that's a different
Conservation.
department, and they don't often
Yeah, sure.
agreeably talk to each other, as we witnessed in Roger
Yeah.
Kimber's house once, when they actually when Hammer and Tom was planning and listed building in conservation. But we're just looking to repair and
Yeah.
maintain.
Well, indeed,
We're looking
yeah.
to replace. We're not looking to change
Well,
the
we're
colour.
going to change it from
Yes, that's
the old Kentish ragstone, which is the bumpy stuff.
That you slip on very
and,
easily.
And the suggestion is we'll probably go for, which is what we were going to do out the back, where we were going to go through the hedge, with probably nice sandstone flags, Indian sandstone flags, which you can do very nicely. They can come with a sort of a slight roughening of the surface, and it's not what was there. You see, this is the problem. It used to be the Kentish ragstone, which is a problem. Well, they
That's
claim
listen,
it.
that's-
It doesn't even look like Kentish ragstone because I've compared it with stuff online.
The word says
It looks
is.
like crazy paving rubbish, really.
It does. It was horrible.
A parallel here is the slabs, the Yorkstone slabs outside the big west door at the church. I don't know if you've been around there recently. But they were in a terrible, shocking mess, all cracked and broken, and a really, really disgraceful mess. So, 10 or 12 years ago, I told the builder just to relay them. It got me into quite a lot of trouble, because firstly we didn't use the right mortar. We've got to use the right mortar. And it did get me into quite a lot of trouble, but it was done.
Nothing unusual about that.
No,
is there?
nothing at all. But if it was just me, I would just do it.
No,
And then
it's
say,
complicated, of course.
Look, it's done, and it looks nice, and we've preserved it. But then, we're a parish council, so we may have to insist on getting the right sort of permission.
Alternative,
But,
yeah.
the listed
Alternative
building-
then, sorry to interrupt Alan, but the alternative then, if we wanted to, is we just do it.
Yes.
And when they challenge us, if they do, which they probably will, we'll say we were stuck against, we were between two things, between the fact that you hadn't given us the final answer earlier, and we have November the 11th coming along, and we put in a retrospective application, and it's very difficult for them to tell us to change it.
Yeah. So I would, this is on, but I would just say just do it, because I'm sick of waiting for them, and provided we don't do anything ghastly, which we won't. then they're not going to make us take it up.
I think it's very important that we do this on health and safety grounds.
Yes.
I agree
Yes.
with you, Paul.
Well, that was basically why I did the
Yes.
And we've conducted a risk assessment,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? And we can go up there and
Well,
do
that would
it.
be the justification.
Put it in writing, so that, you know, Wittersham Parish Council risk assessment, you know.
Except that that is sort of advertising the fact that we know we were doing something wrong.
No, we've taken a risk assessment and we need to take remedial action to avoid close down for the memorial.
Ignorance is sometimes
Yeah, the trouble if we do that is that we've probably got to rope it off now because we've identified the risk.
That's the difficulty.
Yeah, it's
Well, maybe we should.
Yes, but
Maybe that's a.
but I would-
as I say, I as Alan was suggesting, I cannot see any decent argument for not obtaining a quotation, getting a good builder to do a good job.
Well, I think get the quotation and then actually instruct him to get on and just do it.
We do have a drawing, by the way, you know. I mean, that went into them ages ago, didn't it? I got
Well,
Greg
that's where
to
we
do a
filled it.
drawing of the
We
flags.
filled in the form and everything.
Yeah.
Using the right mortar.
oh,
Well,
I put in a proposal forward.
yes,
Sure.
I propose that we ask Yvonne to obtain a quote or more if we can persuade more than one person to quote for the replacement of the current stone with the York stone.
This wasn't going to be York's expensive. This was going to be Indian sandstone.
No,
I mean,
with
the thing is, it
suitable-
won't be the same because
I would rather, now that we've taken this, and I've been banging on to them about this, so they know, we know that they haven't responded. I would rather go and say, and I'll copy planning, help and whoever else I can into it, and say that we are going to have to, because we have not received
Yes.
a response, we are going to have to take the War Memorial out of action for
the trouble with
It's,
that is that once we've done that and they still don't come back, we then won't get the War Memorial done for
Yeah.
November the 11th.
I think that's certainly not a bad way of doing it, but for me, I just take a step back, just do it, and then say, whoops, it's done.
Because even just getting it done,
Yeah.
It's gonna take time.
we're into holiday periods,
So
builders
I mean,
may.
I think we're creating a rod for our own backs by extending it, and they'd have had every chance to come and deal with it, and they haven't, so we just get on and do it. That's my proposal.
Well, the worst they can do afterwards is tell us
Yes.
you didn't apply for planning. We'll say, well, we endeavoured to apply for planning. You wouldn't come back and confirm. It's not even the planning, is it? It's the listed building only, I
Yeah.
think. The funny thing is that the bit going out the back of the memorial through the hedge, we were given approval by planning help approval, you know, to say you do not need anything. It was only when Yvonne went for the front bit, that's to say where the stone, with the other bit is just doing it on grass, you know. As soon as you came to replacing the bit that's there, then they looked at the listing and said, you know, it's already mentioning that it's this Kentish ragstone, which is the rubbish that's there. And therefore, because it was in the listing, you see, they felt that this was more of a problem. The actual memorial, I think they reckon is Portland stone, so it's not the same. There is another point that my wife's attitude is that she doesn't care very much about the health and safety. She said it just looks rubbish, which is your point.
Yeah.
She says it lets the whole memorial down.
It does.
You know, there's so many of these things. There's angles all over,
Yeah.
and all we want to do is smart it up, make it safe,
Yeah.
get the access out the back so that people don't have to walk on the road.
I mean, there's a good chance you get it done without anybody even noticing.
Not in this village.
As Paul found out.
Does it need a clean? The overall
It is pretty dirty.
Can we
Well,
move?
why don't we clean
Can
it
we
at the
move it
same?
forward
Why
then?
don't we clean it at the same time, right? And as
We
part of that,
did do that for the 3 or 4 years ago.
yes. Well, why don't we clean it again? And as part of the renovation, to honour the Commonwealth soldiers of the First World War, put in the Indian sandstone.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, I think it's getting a little bit more complicated than it needs. I would suggest that we do proceed with obtaining quotations for replacing the stone with a suitable sensible material. Jeremy, you've been involved in this from the start, have you, or not?
Yeah, I guess.
With,
Yeah.
with the right mortar.
Yes.
If you clean
Right.
it, no one will notice it's new.
It's got to be, that mustn't use ordinary cement.
Yeah.
It's got to be, archaic mortar, whatever they use.
And I would suggest perhaps that Yvonne and Jeremy, between them, proceed this matter and are able to consult with us at any stage.
We can't take a decision after today, though, unless we have another meeting in
Yeah.
August, you see.
Yeah, but you can get together the detail together.
But then we'll be waiting for a decision in September, is in effect.
Well, is that really?
Can't we circulate the
Yeah,
proposal
if we're all
as we did?
circulated and
Yvonne needs to have a decision. If we're going to do something, we have to have decided to do it. We may not actually then do it, but we need to have agreed that that's what we're going to do. I think.
okay, in session, in
Yes.
like now.
We can only ever take decisions here.
Okay, so is that a financial decision as well? So in other words, what we could do is we could take an estimate of a potential cost and word it so that as long as it comes in below that estimate, then we've got a decision to proceed financially. Doesn't mean to say we spend
Or
up
we
to
could
this.
hold a brief Zoom, couldn't
We
we?
have,
No,
no,
it's
that
got to be
doesn't
public.
count. What we do have, that doesn't count, John.
3 days.
We can only take decisions as councillors in the council, in public, which of course we are in public even though they're not here. We can't do it any other time. We can delegate things to Yvonne, and she does have a delegation. We can always, and that's in writing and is standing, but that standing delegation is only for her to do things that are not more than about £1,000, I think, or even less, and are not outside the run of global business and are uncontroversial. We could, I think, under section 101, give Yvonne sort of a higher delegation to say, we have decided that we will do this, this and this, and we delegate to Yvonne to actually carry that programme through. And then she feels confident. She can ask our advice on Zoom, but she'd have to take the decision herself, because it's been delegated.
Okay. Well, those 3 points that you made, if you could repeat them and we can say yes or no.
It was the points 1, 2 and 3. Well, I think that if we
We can
want,
take a decision to
we're
do.
going to seek a quote for doing it.
Yes.
We are going to,
We're going to agree that first,
yes,
in favour.
Yeah.
yes.
Mm.
We are going to decide that we, I suppose, need to cap the quote in a way. To say, well, look, we're. I mean, in a way, we'll spend what it takes, but we don't mean 50,000.
Yeah.
No.
What might it?
Well, Yvonne need to get back to us if it exceeds such and such.
But we can't then approve it.
No.
We can't
Okay,
approve it.
so I have no idea what it would cost. I don't think, but between us,
1,500 or something.
I would say we set a budget of £3,000.
Yeah.
I think that when you buy the stone, you may find that's quite expensive.
Would 3,000 do it?
Well, if you think of getting from the road up to the memorial, all the way
No,
round
right.
and out,
Quite a lot.
It's a fair bit.
out to the hedge,
It's a fair bit, isn't it?
and then
Okay.
tarmac
And then
from the
the
hedge to the other
work-
bit.
Okay,
Labour.
well, let's set a budget of £5,000
Okay.
Yeah.
delegated.
Okay.
But
I'm
we
sure
will-
it cost 12. Seriously?
I'm trying to think of a roof over the walkway around the memorial now. Look, if we set a budget of £5,000, I'd be uncomfortable if we were spending more than £5,000. If we set a budget of £5,000,
There's a good chance of it working at 5,000.
yes,
And then we'll just take that
and
risk if it
we
doesn't.
would instruct the clerk to get good value for money.
Lay it herself.
Now, how are we going to
This is a
decide?
secret, do it.
We've got to decide on the actual stone. I've been talking about Indian sandstone now, because that's what Greg has done his with. I know, I've seen it. There are different colours available. I presume we'll want a sort of a greyer one rather than a redder one, for
Yes.
instance. And we take advice, of course, on slab sizes and layouts and things, because you can do. I don't think probably we want to just do square, square, square. I think it would probably be, oblongs,
Yeah.
set differently, you know.
Could we not do that through a Zoom meeting? If we delegate the financial
We can
purchasing
give advice,
authority,
we can give advice,
and
but
then
not a
our
decision.
clerk comes back on a Zoom call, whatever, to say this is the proposals. It's within budget. You know, I'd just like
you're
your
saying you're
guidance.
into
as
decision.
well.
Decision now.
Okay, well,
Or she
okay,
have
well
to decide,
then
she
we
can
word
take
it.
advice.
Then we word it that along that the stone purchased should be in keeping with the existing colour, and
Well, it won't be like,
well, in keeping. Doesn't have
In
to
keeping.
not match. In keeping, right? If we give the money level and say wording like in keeping. I can't think what else we.
Let me explain
It's
to
a
you the
decision.
way
And
this
design.
point, let me explain to you the way this point works. When a planning officer at Ashford decides on a planning application, they seek views and everyone can put in their responses on the portal.
Yep.
They read through them, they're not bound by them, and they take their own decision. It will be the same for Yvonne. She will take advice from councillors, we can say what we like, she will take the decision at the end. Having considered what we think, but not been bound by it.
And we could all submit our opinions.
Of course,
As
absolutely.
in-
No, absolutely.
individual
That's true.
citizens.
No, that's true.
Well,
That's how it be.
we might well be the largest group of people submitting individual comments. And if we can persuade the Legion as well.
The ideal material is redundant tombstones, which is a problem. And I mean, this brings to mind that some decades ago, Island Cottage in Swan Street, they lifted their garden path. They found it was all made of tombstones.
Very good. Yes. A lot of them are York stone and surrounds and
Exactly.
things. And
But I mean, I don't think we can do that.
I thought you were going to offer some up.
Not these days.
okay, well, I think probably
Can
yes.
Can I just, if this is down to me, I need to know exactly what you're agreeing to. So I put down seek a quote to do it.
Indeed.
From, are we
The quote is likely to be for labour only because they'll want to know the material we're providing before.
So
Well,
are we
the-
providing it? Are they providing it? Do we
Well-
not ask what?
I think if we can decide on a material and then ask the builder to price for laying that material, that there will be some difference, I think, in
Well, why did we call it Indian? Was it Indian sandstone?
Indian sandstone.
Why call it? Why did we
Okay,
call it
okay.
Indian sandstone?
It's Indian Yorkstone. Indian Yorkstone.
Indian.
No, it's not.
Or similar.
Comes from York.
But we use the words or similar.
All right.
Or other appropriate.
Right,
or similar.
Or other appropriate.
Is there a reason for having anything? Is there a reason for having a different design? I mean, I would go for the same design, same size, same same
It won't be
square
the same
footage.
design because it's crazy paving. It's done in crazy paving.
Present
isn't it?
is crazy paving.
But it's more not having it like you said, the
Yeah.
straight, isn't
Oh, yeah,
it?
yeah.
So
It's
we
more,
want that's part of the problem with this crazy paving, it's sinking, etc. in various places.
Yvonne's got the drawing that Greg did, which was just because he's a talented architect, he knew sort of how big to make it and what sort of
Yeah.
thing just to...
Is it crazy?
No, it's all straight off.
It's squared off. So we don't.
Squared off, stop.
Well, then let's say that what we like is a squared off one, as per the design. We could approve Greg's design,
Yeah.
couldn't we? Right now, as a decision.
It was only intended to be indifferent, of course, but yes.
Yeah, well, if we approve Greg's design, if we say a particular type of stone or similar, and if we set a 5,000 ceiling, and plan B is buy some old matting.
Oh, yes, that's it. He says Indian sandstone. So this is, I mean, this is a proper specified drawing, so a builder can easily price it.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's right. I mean,
it's nicely done.
Oh, it's even got the Indian sandstone
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
size.
Everything he does.
yes, it is.
proved that.
And one thing you noticed that he did stick with was this little stub wall along the sides,
Yeah.
which was just a sort of a nod to the
Yes,
previous.
right.
I think that's. I
So
think
see
that, I agree with you, John. I think that's adequate for someone to price.
And then, you know,
The point about Indian sandstone, by the way, is it's relatively cheap. relatively.
And if we don't take it forward, we're going to be
Do you have a source? I could do with a couple.
have some problems with the rest of the village by
Greg does because he's used it.
November.
The downside is it's carved out the hillside in India by 6-year-olds.
Probably.
Okay, then let's get into that.
Right, so,
That's
Okay.
biodiversity.
Okay, so Yvonne is instructed
That's
to
the downside.
obtain a quote based on Greg's
based.
plan.
Right,
There's
so
too much geology going on here.
cap the quote at 5,000.
Yeah, that's what's approved.
Pounds, not rupees.
Gained in sandstone.
I'm fearful that the 5,000 won't be enough. It cost us 3,000 to do the tarmac path up by the bus shelter. 3,000 something.
I think that, well, I don't know how much Indian
I
sandstone.
think, but then we have a block, and then Yvonne then has to report to us and say I couldn't get it within.
But then we wait till
5,000.
September, or we of course have another meeting in here.
But if we have to, I think it's important
We can
enough
always do
Yes.
that
Yes.
we
Yeah.
have a
We can always
that
we only need a quorum of
We
3.
have an EGM, can't we? Or
Yeah.
extraordinary meeting.
Yes, it will be an extraordinary. The
Only
thing
need a
is,
quorum of 3.
you know, we will only need Doctor a planning application to come in August, and we'll have to anyway.
We have to have that meeting in the village hall, do we?
Yes.
Yes,
Well, in public. I
that'd be
mean,
here,
it
yeah.
can't be in your front room. No.
No, we don't. Okay.
Okay,
So we're keeping it at 5. We're going to seek a quote on the plan.
yeah.
What about the cost
We
of
want 2
practice?
quotes really, at least. But I mean, we know one of them, and we have to try and think of another one.
But can we not just have one on a health and safety level?
If you wanted to, for speed.
Because
yeah.
it's just got to be done, hasn't it, on
Got to
health
be
and
done,
safety?
Yeah.
I mean, if the council's got freedom. I mean, the financial regulations gave us latitude when we wrote them and said, you know, we try and do this and we try and do that, but we will take account of local people and requirements, and you know, I try always to avoid boxing us in.
So here's my suggestion. I suggest we stick with the £5,000 and also we approve a reserve budget of another 3,000
Sure.
Yeah.
just in case.
Yeah.
We do that approval tonight.
Yeah.
Based on that financial
Latitude.
flexibility.
Yeah.
Are we including them providing the slabs? Because if they're going to have to break them up, you know, to go to this design, I wouldn't be able to go to somewhere and say, how many slabs do I need, you know, to get a quote?
No, the builder will.
The builder
Yeah,
will.
builder will.
The
Builder
Yes, so the
the-
builder, will they be able to give us
Yeah,
Yes.
I think
Asking for quote.
include the sandstone.
the sandstone and the labour?
Yes, right.
So let's put £5,000 with
Yeah.
a reserve of 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
good.
And a
Okay,
Sorry, but
point for the builder to bear in mind, if we want them quite tightly butted, you know, with Alan's special mortar, then
White.
they want to be cut in the supplier. We don't really want the builder getting his own circular saw out and whizzing along, because I think you'll find you'll get quite crazed edges.
Because the alternative is to just get each stone sponsored by someone like they did at Twickenham when they rebuilt. You know, all the block work has got a name as a sponsor on it.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Let's not go that way
Maybe that's the
for the time being.
the talking about timing, we need to set a deadline for completion, because I don't think it's worth spending lots and lots of money if they're not going to have it ready for the Remembrance Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, builders have got quite busy diaries at the moment.
I think the other point is that the British Legion haven't made any comment so far about the actual memorial.
In which respect?
Well, in terms of looking at it and being involved and being aware.
I talked to 2 of them when this first came up last year. That was to say, what's his name from Coomlands?
Tony Bullock.
Tony
Tony
Bullock.
Bullock, and the chap from Budsley, both of them. Oh, and Roger Keane, I think. So
Roger.
3. They all said, yeah, well, sounds good to me. I mean, there was nothing official. One of them said they were going to raise it at a meeting, but I don't know if they ever did.
And I'm sure they'll shout if we were able to it and close it off.
You might want to have a quite well with Mark Cleverden, who is the secretary of the Legion, organises all the speaking events, etc., etc., and just says, could you please organise a letter of support for us from the Royal British Legion?
Actually, a letter from them exercising or raising their concern that something should be done by November the 11th
That
would be better.
Yep.
We know what happened last year and apparently the previous year, because the curate told me that there'd been people sick in the previous year, and they want to make sure it's safe by November the 11th.
They've got a meeting on Thursday.
And if you want to sort of really emphasise it, it is an event that children take part in. If a small child from the football club slips and falls over, bashes their head and incurs a brain injury, then presumably the planning authority might be liable. I mean, you know, there's no harm in laying that on. It is an event attended by children.
Yes, well, who am I saying this to?
No, you
I
don't
don't
say
know.
that.
Have it in your
So the Royal British Legion you'd like a letter
No, this is it. We're just going to do it.
raising their concern that something has to be done by the date.
Fine.
So when I actually get something, in the absence of, we went ahead.
We went ahead. Okay. Now we've got to learn about the success or otherwise of the 1 hour session with our local policeman. Yvonne was there, Jeremy was there, I think. I don't know if
And
any
2 others.
There was one. Only 2 other people.
Only 2 other people. Yes, I was disappointed.
Yeah,
I put it out and I put a reminder out on Sunday as well.
indeed. But, yeah.
If I just go through the things that you particularly asked,
Yes.
and then Jeremy can say other things. You were asking whether the police go to schools. Yes, the Child Centre policing team, that's their baby, they do that. Do they conduct safety and security meetings with people from specific areas? What he said was if something happened and neighbours were concerned, they go out and reassure people.
They're reactive rather than proactive.
Yes. He is aware of the local problems, catapults. It's not just us, obviously. And he did go on at length about catapults. He'd like, ideally, half the area that he's got is what he'd like. He doesn't like having as big an area as he's got. He obviously emphasised need to report everything. He will. He's happy for people to have his telephone number. What he was saying was that if you see something happening, you can ring him. If he's in the area, he'll come. So he is reactive and, he does, he is happy to do that. Those are basically things you were asking, and I specifically got the word in edgeways to ask. Jeremy can give you some.
Is his home in this part of the
I
world?
don't know.
No, we don't know.
It's Ashford,
Mm.
I think that was it. We talked quite a lot about catapults because Greg had the experience of that, and Mike Apps, both of whom had attended. They both had catapult projectiles in their property. Essentially, the thing is, he turned up, he talked to people. It's one of those things where there's nothing very concrete to come out of it. He did happily give his telephone number to Greg, who wrote it down, and said, because Greg's in a very good position for visibility, just opposite the bus shelter, and next door to the path up Yunnan, where they think a lot of the catapulting went on, he's in a position to see what's going on. We talked about the fact that the children weren't in the bus shelter anymore, or the young persons, because we haven't got the seating anymore. Well, occasionally, but nothing like before, and certainly not into the small hours of the night, which used to be regular. That's pretty much it, I think.
Did he mention ever receiving any CCTV footage or doorbell footage? I'm just thinking of the incident a few days ago next to here.
No.
There's been pretty heavily commented on next door
Oh,
where
yes.
Frankie's eggs were
Yes.
stolen and it picked, I mean,
Yeah, but it's happened twice.
it's now happened twice,
Mm.
and they're picking up the vehicle, and
Yes.
and you can see the individuals who are
Yeah.
doing this, and to me, it's not for us to tell the lady. I think she's doing it actually. She's in touch with the police, but I wonder if it ever filters down to the Darrens of this world, because that
He
is
said
such a
that
local.
it said that stuff was, when it's reported, it comes out. He sees what's going on.
So, am I wrong in assuming? I get the impression, and I could be wrong, that he thinks that we're very little crime, nothing happens, nothing. You know, we're all sort of poodling along without any incident in Wittersham. We're not on the radar.
You see, he does come through patrol. He goes on sort of circular tours really. He knows, you know, if I, like he said, if he'd been up, for instance, in was it Batherston or Billingdon or something, you know, he might swing down through Wittersham and go on to Stone and what have you. If he does come through Wittersham, he might just go a little drive into the estate just to see. But you know that within his 10-hour shift, I think he was saying, within his 10 hours, because of the distances, he goes from Great Charts to presumably Wolverhampton and Newenden. You know, it's a long way.
Do you refer to the special constables at all? Because
Yes,
the chap he had
He
with him
gets them out.
was
He said
quite
he said he does want the
experienced.
specials out sometimes,
Right.
or points them in some particular direction to do some particular thing.
Okay, well, I'm not sure we can expect
Much.
much more, really.
I think the only thing we can do, if anyone ever says to us, what are we going to do, is the same old thing, which is if a crime has been committed against you, if you don't report it to the police, you can't expect them to do anything. And really direct people towards feeding the intelligence to the police so they've got something to work on. That's all we can really do.
Can we release his telephone number generally?
I'll check with him.
You know,
Excuse me.
I wouldn't mind having it. You know, no doubt there are others in the village who might.
He won't mind you having it. The question is whether he doesn't want nuisance calls, as it were.
I think it'd be useful to issue it to parish council.
Yes, I mean, if we had it,
We had
all
Kate's
had it,
years
and,
ago.
And then if anybody asked us specifically, rather than put it out generally.
Sure. Okay. Ashford Borough Council have advertised the fact that the local plan is. I mean, we're not unfortunately going to get a visit to Wittersham, are we? We're going to have to go down to Tenterton, and I would recommend that everybody tries to get a look. And that will show, I think, which blocks of land have been submitted for potential development.
You know what they are because they put that out already.
Yeah.
That's the one next to us and Stocks Road.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are just the two as far as
Yes.
we know. Yeah.
The one next to us, as you can see, is by far the biggest.
Yes.
And very visible.
I think it's worth noting that, I mean, Mick Burgess mentioned this a year ago, that the big obstacle was Stogmarsh.
Stogmarsh, yes.
And that's been resolved.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they've found a way around that, haven't they?
Yeah. I think that might well have a knock-on effect.
Yes, they will do.
It doesn't affect us. It means
No,
that
but the use of resources.
No, the resources that they're going around.
Places, yes.
I will, although it's now on next door, I won't do that, but I'll put it on
Yeah.
Facebook and website. Proceed.
Okay.
Either way, if either of those sites go through the local plan, explained as it were, process, and they get into the local plan, then they are immediately pretty much buildable.
Yeah.
It's far more likely to get either of them than when they're just making opportunistic applications. So for instance, Stocks Road has been going since 2015 and never got through. If it was in the plan, it's a slam dunk.
So people are entitled to vote against it getting in the plan, is it? Or?
No, all we can do is give our consultation responses, and eventually the planners and the council, Ashford Council, will decide what to put in the plan. and then the government inspector will come along and look at it. And last time, the bit of land up behind Poplar Field, Ashford put it in for 40 houses and the inspector threw it out happily. Wasn't satisfied.
I think we get consulted again. I think this is
Oh, yeah,
temporary, so
consulted.
that
This
we
is
do-
very early. We'll have consultations, but the fact is that we have very little power. I mean, we should make our views known. We did it last time, but it didn't make any difference. It still went into the plan. It was only the inspector who threw it out.
It's getting people there. When it was in the village,
Yeah.
people are more likely to come up and say something.
Sure.
Who's going to go to
Yeah.
Tenterden? That's the trouble.
Okay, Yvonne has circularised us with her March to June very modest, I would say, expenses for us to confirm that we authorise
Yeah.
to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's that with the financials. Yeah, come in a moment. Working party reports. The caretaker. We've got the caretaker budget there as well. Or the month.
It's the month's expenditure.
Yeah.
But we'll come to that.
The caretaker, we arranged or we agreed the meeting we're going to have with this lady
Yes,
to be the 25th, I think it was.
that's right.
But she's a very busy lady. She wants us to meet in the coffee shop in Tenterden at 10:30.
Thirsty lady too.
Well, I offered Jeremy offered, and I put that forward.
10:30 Tenterden.
A coffee shop.
20 what?
I think it was 25th.
25th
Of July.
Thursday the 25th of July.
That's what. Yeah, she.
So, coffee shop of our selection.
See, I don't go to Tenterden much these days, so I'm afraid I'm not up on coffee shops in Tenterden.
Jenny says there's a very nice little cafe as you leave. You know the big Tesco car park and the car park above it towards the high street. As you go down that little channel on the left hand
The
side.
Italian.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's Montebarlo's
Montalbano.
coffee shop,
Montebarlo's.
ice cream parlour.
And that's very busy though.
Yeah.
It's only tiny and it's busy.
Well, it's good until the weather, because they got outside tables. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Should we start there? Yeah, who is it? It's you and myself and
Yes.
Jeremy.
Well, the worry is if we do say
Over.
Montalbanos, we may not get in. That's what I'm worrying about.
We'll go and have a word and preserve it.
Also, we want to have a proper discussion rather than having the...
A degree of privacy.
If you want privacy, it's nothing like as good as Montalbano's, but if you want privacy, you've got it upstairs in Cafe, whatever it is Cafe Nero, the one up next to, where was Phase 8, right up by the cinema, past M&Co as was.
That is Nero, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've got an upstairs there which people don't usually use much.
Or upstairs in the Cranbrook Bakery. They've got a,
Oh, well, that's probably much
Well, they have,
better.
they have,
No,
they
no.
have.
they've got another place. It's quite bright. I've had a couple of meetings upstairs in the Cranbrook
Oh,
Bakery.
well, that would be more, that would be more nice.
You
than-
know what I mean? In
Cafe.
opposite
No
Wales.
idea.
Almost opposite Wales.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's newish, isn't it? It's
Crossing.
You need to go out more.
Near the crossing.
It is. It's very new.
Why would I go to Tenterden? I can walk down the road into Rye.
Personally, for me, I go and have coffee and rye.
That's
Yes,
intended,
quite.
Nothing like that.
that's intended to be a bit more shishy, so I think that's good. Yeah.
If I have to meet the local clergy for a showdown, that's where we go.
you can throw buns at each other.
That's like
Right, so
Okay.
what's
Ernie
happening?
and 10 tons in.
Cranbrook Bakery.
It
Shall
would
we
make
get
more
the-
sense. We
shall
all
we get
went
the-
together, wouldn't it, if I came
Yes,
out here and
just-
after
Yeah,
we all
Yeah.
go rather than
Okay.
Okay.
Cranbrook.
Bakery.
Bakery.
Cranbrook Baker.
High Street, Tenterden.
You don't send it to Cranbrook.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're on to finance again. Everyone's
Yes,
kindly
please.
circularised.
You've had these. I don't think there's anything, obviously not much happened.
No, nothing very controversial.
I do need you to sign these, because if you're happy, which one's that? That's the monthly,
Transaction statements.
Coffee morning.
so that's that one. So I don't think there's anything
Going down quickly.
No.
Sorry?
Okay, everyone happy with
Yep.
the monthly
Yep.
Yes.
transaction?
Yeah.
Dave?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Right.
I'm struggling. Should we do this? Yes, that's just the caretaker's one.
And the caretaker statement.
Yeah.
This is the subcontract.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
probably done.
And that tends to be monthly during summer.
Well,
doesn't
as and when.
it? As and when, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
That one, you can look at it. I know it's not how you like it, but it's really difficult. I've gone through so many different reports. The one that you might like comes out with a 23-24 comparison as well, and I don't really want all that. But this does show you, if you can see, how it's what we have actually, what we budgeted, and what we've actually spent. And I have, the figures are slightly skewed because of the caretaker. Because obviously when our budget is set against the precept, but then this whole thing brings in the caretaker scheme. So we've got this caretaker scheme income which throws out the total receipts, and the same with the payments, throws out the payments. So you'd think we've got a precept of 35,700, yet our budgeted payments is 69. But that includes the caretaker scheme. If you take the caretaker's amount out, you're back to what we precepted for. And if you look at the actuals, receipts and payments, they tie up with the amounts on your accounts that show what we've actually received and paid. So it all ties up, just slightly confusing.
Is there nothing special that we wish to point
I don't
in
think
this
so.
direction?
No.
No.
No, we're all going to plans.
Good. Okay.
So yes, yes. Goes through as noted.
Right, thank you very much. Planning decisions for say,
As the agenda.
we approved, we supported, and it's been granted. Open spaces, anybody got anything
Nothing
to
new.
remark on open spaces? No? Public rights of way,
The footpath that Sally brought up last month is barely passable, so I'm reluctant, but I will write to the landowners each side. Last time I had numerous years ago when I wrote to people about their overgrown hedges, I got it in the neck, and we did agree that I wouldn't do it again. But
who are the landowners in this case?
well, it's each side of it's the second footpath down Swan Street.
Is that Lorraine and Gavin?
No, that's the first one.
No,
That's
that's
the first one. So who's
David Chestnut,
Sorry?
not David Chestnut.
No, I think
Is it the one next to the
2 chimneys.
elaborate bungalow that,
No, it's further down. It's almost opposite the Jessens, but
Who talking about?
2 chimneys, is it?
Ryan Wendy Sabine
When did you be?
on the corner. That
No,
one.
no, not that.
Not
no,
that one?
no, the one in between that, the one slightly.
The one
Up.
further up the road.
One that's usually
Yes.
quite difficult to get through.
And Hodgson at 2 chimneys.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the other side.
Well, that's Mary Mallett's house still, isn't it? Isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. She's got tenants in
I
there.
don't know.
But it's their responsibility to do it.
Yeah.
So I was going to write
Yeah.
and hope for the best.
Can I suggest that in your script, in your letter, you make it very clear that it's the parish council that have asked you to write rather than you,
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
if it make it very clear that if they got a problem, then they should approach the parish council rather than being
Yes.
unpleasant to you. I mean, you'll
Well,
choose the right words, but put it that way, that it's
Yes,
something
yeah,
we've
I think
discussed.
Yes.
I imagine you did do that.
Sorry?
I'm sure you did do that anyway.
Well, yes.
You didn't say I insist.
Oh, no.
No. I just think that it's
No, I think
10 years later, different people.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know. We send Sue round with a big pair of
I think I
secateurs and
came
say
up
use
with
these.
we.
Do you know Anne?
Sorry.
Do you know Anne in Chimneys?
Well, I mean, she lost her husband, didn't she, a couple of years ago?
Because they always used to do it.
Yes.
Oh, did they? Maybe it's just a bit much for
She's
her.
not very mobile, I would say, but
Mm.
whether she's got somebody who does a garden, I would have thought, but
Sure.
I don't know who.
Okay. But that's what I thought. Otherwise,
Friend's house is up for sale. It's been for a while.
Sold,
Sold, yeah.
according to Phillips and Stubbs.
That's right. Subject to, yeah.
And they're moving to Malta,
All right,
Okay.
Very
Thank
crowded
you.
now.
Get on to that.
hopefully.
My sister goes regularly.
Highways, any issues other than the usual?
No.
Just that we've been asked for the money.
Oh yes, for the scheme.
That's been done.
oh, that's been done. Yes, it's
Yeah.
paid for.
Yeah.
But that's
yes,
the
just-
final one, isn't it?
Yes.
Because it says for the design, but really it's for the... Doing as well.
Execution, isn't it?
Yes.
And when that hasn't been done, has it? No, when's it going
No,
to be done?
no, well,
Who knows?
whenever they do it.
And just that, have it on record that the potholes that we used to complain about, well, half of them have been films between the junction on the BT08 to Twin Island and where it joins the A26. So,
Only crashes the other half.
Yes. Cemetery churchyard.
No, the only thing is, I think Alf may need to cut a few branches off the tree again. There's one in particular that's hanging over the path if you go round to the toilet. It's not a big one, just enough. It's across the.
what, on the front?
It's not much, but sorry.
On the in front of the church?
As if you're
Between
going
the
to the
front.
toilet.
Around the side.
The side.
Around the side?
Down the side.
As if you're coming out the door and going.
The same in the front of the church? Well, side of, which way is the church? Yes, between the
It's outside the west door.
He normally does it
Yeah,
for
yeah.
us, yes.
Yeah.
He did it before.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably
Yeah.
might see him tomorrow, depending where he is.
If you walk that way tomorrow, I'll poke you in the eye. So.
He's done such a good job
So-
in the churchyard, in the cemetery, hasn't
So
he?
if the footpath doesn't get you, the tree will.
The graveyard is there
Well,
already.
you get lots of
That's the,
well, you get lots
see,
of
Alan,
toilet.
this is your moment, Alan. You see, officially the graveyard is full, but there is an opportunity to dig up people, isn't there, after 100 years?
Well, if you dig down, you quite often, I mean, I have done this, and you do come to human bones quite quickly.
Yes. So maybe we don't need a cemetery
They
extension
might-
after all.
They migrate to the water surface.
Yes, they do.
Strictly.
Ready for the day.
Good.
Interestingly, just as a side, we give our people 100 years. In one of those I looked, they only get it for 35.
35?
Yes.
What did he get for
The
35?
exclusive right of burial in a
Yeah.
grave, so after
Yeah.
35,
A lot
you had to, if you want to
depends.
keep it.
A lot depends on the soil. If it's acidic, then. I mean, I was really heavily into this business of reclamation. I mean, huge churchyards, clearing them for development, and quite fascinating industry, actually, I have to say. But,
So what came to the surface? Bones only.
bones, if there were any left, they don't. The bones, you know, after 50 or 60 years, we were doing over 100 years as mentioned, you know, under a Home Office licence, and you often found nothing. But if you found lead coffins, then that was a real
I
problem.
mean, you won't remember this, but there was a time when so many of the stones in the churchyard were like that, and we raised a lot of money by getting people to sponsor them upright. So you
Don't tell us that.
why not? It's history. History. And so
Yeah, one of
for
the-
£50, I nipped out with my spade and put them upright. While you were digging down, you actually quite often find human bones coming out. So
You clearly didn't go to Peasmarsh Church because there's an awful lot.
I know, but it was a way of raising money. We've been raising £3,500
There you go.
doing that.
Is it enough for a new pathway?
Yes, that sort of thing. Yes, we did. Yes, that sort of thing. Yes.
The NHS needs you, Alan.
It does.
Okay, date of next meeting, everybody got it in their diaries, nothing in August. Have a good holiday. And items for information. This GoalNet business, should we mention that at all?
What?
Well, I had an email mentioning someone wanting a net for a goal.
Oh yes, yes.
Was
that Gareth Southgate?
It was in the next door conversation, and therefore
Yes.
you read it there. I just passed it on at the time, I think, saying, yeah, okay, you know, we're being asked for that. I did wonder if there was an issue there on health and safety, because presumably nets people could get caught up in, or animals can.
Once again, it's
one thing to put them up and take them down, it's another thing to leave it there all the time.
yes. I
Yeah.
put in something that replaced what was vandalised before, but we agreed at the last, or when we agreed to put in just the post, because to get a proper whole thing was very expensive. So we didn't go down that road. But once again, if the Stocks Road, section 6, we get a proper pitch that we can put there, then that's all the money that would have been used
Indeed.
for
I
that.
was also a bit sceptical that they say, oh, the children can't play with it properly if it hasn't got a net. That's ridiculous. They know damn well whether the ball goes one side of the post or the other.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
it's
not
not.
that they have to run after it.
But
You know,
it's,
it's the end of the world.
It's-
They'll be asking for the VAR next. Sorry, am I that? Oh, I can't, no one remembers the pile of coats.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what I said.
Yes.
you see.
Yeah.
Oh well.
The only other thing is, I think I might have mentioned before, about the petanque pitch, you know, that Ray's put in along. My wife's taking Richmond interest in just having seen it very successfully played elsewhere. But the surface doesn't need changing, it's the wrong surface. And we were going to talk to Ray about that and find a way. It was indicated that if there were some expense involved, it might be possible to approach the right one.
Yes, it just
Depends when you
But
say
there
it.
shouldn't, the expense really is taking away what's there.
Do you have to take away what's? I mean, is
Yeah.
it you can't
The
put
thing-
the new stuff on it?
No, it's
It's
far
already
too
come up to
soggy a
that.
surface, if you like, really.
Oh, okay.
It needs to be almost a path,
So much
pathway,
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
slightly stable path.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll pursue that with Ray over the next month and report back. Because it'd be nice to, I mean, even though it's only a 2-lane thing, it would be quite nice to have people to play. Any other point? Jeremy's got something.
Yesterday.
Just for information, I've been badgering over the period the committee here about having a CIO as well, and my caps particularly I got to and explained it all to him, and he said to me after the meeting yesterday with the policeman that he is going to call a committee meeting, and he'd already asked if I was willing to come along when he does that and talk to them about why they should have a CIO. So I'm hoping, because again they're put themselves at risk. I'm hoping that we will have a success there as well.
Good. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.